Welcome to the No Bull Political Arena with your hosts, Sophia Nelson, Bill O'Reilly, Brian Mistro, and TJ McCormick. It's real voices, raw politics, and no bullshit. Well, hello everybody again. This is Brian Mistro. I'm broadcasting live on the No Bull Media Group, specifically the political arena. Let me just start off by saying that we've got some really good news. There's going to be a lot of people, new people, including if you're in politics at all, some folks I think that are household names. And we're going to start up some new shows. I can't talk too much about it, but there's going to be a lot of very positive changes for what we're doing. We're excited about it. And another show that I think that will have some changes is I'm seriously considering doing a one-on-one like this Monday through Friday. So let me know what you think. I do this because I want to be able to not hold anything back, lay it out as I see it, call out bullshit on both sides as I see it, and that's what this is all about. So usually, moving on now, usually, if you've watched me before, I balance out the Republican craziness or Trump craziness with some of the absolute insanity that actually goes on in the Democratic Party too. I generally try not to make this all about Trump, but for the first time, I think since I've done these, this entire show is going to be about Trump. So, as you know, with me, as long as you're in the right 5 o'clock somewhere time zone, grab yourself a beer, smoke yourself a cigar, and let's dive into some absolute craziness. So I'm going to read the slides out. This particular slide was from earlier today, and it's Peter Baker. I believe it's with NBC News, and apologize, Peter, if I'm getting that one incorrect. But let me go ahead and read this just in case you're just listening to this or a podcast or so forth. So it says, quote, Blanche commits in writing to not proceed with the $1.8 billion taxpayer fund for Trump allies and to limit IRS immunity for Trump. But even so, Trump and two sons are still immune from audits, back taxes, and penalties for past years. I'm going to tell you a story. No, actually, I think it's supposed to go once upon a time. So once upon a time, there was an individual running for president about 10 years ago. This individual made some enormously big comments about how much money he makes, why he doesn't need the money, why he's going to change everything in politics because he doesn't need the money, and how much taxes he makes, and blah, 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 blah. So this individual ran, and the individual won the election. And about the third, coming into the fourth year of this individual winning the election, somebody at the IRS, which he controlled, by the way, his administration controlled it. Somebody at the IRS released his taxes, and it was against the law, but he released his taxes and showed that this particular individual lied his ass off on everything he said about it. What a surprise, right? So as time would go by, this individual lost his election, and another individual by the name of Joe Biden would win that election. And Joe Biden took the person that released the taxes. They filed suit. I don't know what do you call it. He was indicted for it. And even as we talk today, Joe Biden, who is a Democrat, put the person behind bars for 5 years, where he still sits today. And we're going to fast forward a few years. There is another presidential election, and that same person from before, who was running the IRS, won the election. And so, what was one of the first things that he did when he controls all executive levels of government, both the IRS and the DOJ, incidentally? This individual says, you know what, I'm going to sue the IRS, which he controls, for $10 billion, with a B, $10 billion. Um, so the court case goes in front of a federal judge, and the federal judge says, Attorney General, I don't think you can do this. You need to explain to me how the person that controls the IRS and the DOJ and every executive function, how he can be both the plaintiff and the defendant. He's basically suing himself. And so the DOJ said okay, and the federal judge said, I want to see briefs about this within the next, whatever it was, 3 weeks or 4 weeks, okay? Because this doesn't look legal or constitutional or anything. What do you know? A few days before the briefs were due, the Department of Justice, run by a gentleman by the name of Blanche, who was Donald Trump's personal attorney for years and years and years, he said, you know what? Let's settle. So he goes to the individual that we've been talking about, and he says, we're going to give you, he tells the judge, or no, let me rephrase that. No, he did not tell the judge. He's speaking and acting as the Attorney General, and he said, we're going to give Trump and settle this lawsuit for $1.776 billion, which he gets to control, which the individual would get to control. And also, we're going to give the individual a free get out of IRS jail card for anything and everything he has done, his kids have done, any of his businesses has done, the Trump organization has done, and so forth. So obviously, I'm describing Donald Trump in this situation. Let's talk about what just happened today. So let me lead up to it for just a moment, because up to this point, there was no way that this was going to be legal, that any of this would pass a federal judge. So they settled a few days before that for billions of dollars, which he controls, and to make sure Donald Trump and Donald Trump's kids and Donald Trump organization and all of Donald Trump's businesses and blah, 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 blah can never, ever be sued or responsible for any back taxes, any taxes, okay? Perpetually from May 16th, and don't quote me on the exact date, but I think it's the 16th. Going back in time to, I guess, whenever Trump landed on the shores of the United States of America through his dad and so forth. So, yes, I'm being a little bit of an asshole for a moment, but it's deserved, because this is the point I want you to get. 2 Republican senators, Texas's John Cornyn and Tillis from North Carolina, Cornyn from Texas, Tillis from North Carolina, had said there's no way we're letting Trump out of committee, or I'm sorry, we're letting Blanche out of committee to be nominate or confirmed as the Attorney General for the United States of America, with this slush fund and so forth going on. And so today he came out and released a Cornyn and released a Tillis because they said there's no way you're making it out of committee. If he doesn't make it out of committee, he's dead. There's no confirmation ability. So they said, Blanche came back and said the $1.776 billion fund is dead. Now, it's not dead with prejudice. So what does that mean? It means it can still be picked up later. But as of right now, the DOJ, under my leadership, Todd Blanche's leadership, is saying, you know what? Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's dead. Here's your letter. Here's our promise, which isn't binding, by the way. And here's our promise. The entire leadership is that whole $1.776 billion is dead. And we're going to qualify that the IRS is going to promise through the government to never, ever go back and look at, and he closed it down to Trump's organization, any of Trump's businesses, to Trump's kids, to Trump, and so forth. So let me ask you a question. If you're Donald Trump, are you more interested in having a slush fund to pay the January Sixers? Or are you more interested in making sure that no matter what you did, no matter how bad it was, no matter how much money you owe, no matter how much you lied to the IRS, that there was no way the IRS could ever touch you or your kids or the businesses or the Trump organization or any of that? No person that I'm aware of in the history of this fucking country has ever gotten such a deal. So you tell me, is Todd Blanche the fairy godmother of our tale? Is he acting as the Attorney General? Or is he still acting as the personal lawyer, which he's been for a long time, of Donald Trump? One thing that's happened, and I don't know if we're going to be able to get to it today, but there has been a later, and it came out about 1 hour ago. So I'm going to read this to you because it happened and broke long before I was able to put up the slide. So I'm going to read this to you real quickly. This is from CNN, by the way. So, quote, new, the White House was directly involved. You're listening? The White House was directly involved in acting Attorney General Todd Blanche's order to formally rescind the president's $1.8 billion anti-weaponization fund. Multiple sources familiar with the matter told CNN. Specifically, White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles and the Director of Legislative Affairs, James Braid, were deeply involved in the process, one official said. Blanche worked with the White House throughout the process and kept top officials briefed on the negotiations and the sticking points. It was all directed through the White House. All of this. He did this shit to you. He's taking your money. He's getting something only kings get. If you're not pissed yet, you should be. And let's go to slide number 2. Quote, Capital One Financial hits back against a lawsuit over its decision to close the Trump Organization's bank accounts years ago, with the disclosure that this marks the first time a bank has formally, let me say this again, that marks the first time a bank has formally tied money laundering concerns to the U.S. president's family businesses. Well, fuck me. So in other words, Donald Trump's suing Cap One because they cut him off of his business accounts there. Cap One is now coming out saying that's fine. We're going to take you to court because the reason we did it Wasn't because of anything else. It's because it was money laundering. And it was flagged by our money laundering department, and we stand behind what we did. I'm sure, as you should be too, if you're watching this program, I'm sure that everything was on the up and up with Donald Trump, and the IRS deal that Todd Blanche worked out has absolutely nothing to do with Trump's money laundering or fees or potentially going to prison. It has nothing to do with any of that. It's just coincidence. You can't make this shit up. I mean, if you were to go write a novel about this kind of stuff like 5 or 10 years ago, there's nobody that would pick it up. I don't care what your name is, because they would say, this is absolutely impossible, crazy, it couldn't happen, and yet it's happening right now in front of our eyes. Congratulations, America. You just hired one of the most corrupt people in the history of our country. Not presidents, one of the most corrupt people in the history of our country. All right, so let's have some more fun. Like I said, today is Donald Trump bashing, and it's because the entire day has been a rat's nest of bullshit that he's done. So, breaking. This is from Fox News, and if it comes from Fox News, as you know, you can trust every single thing that they say. At POTUS, which Donald Trump says the U.S. had an attack on Iran planned that would have been the biggest since World War II before Iran reached out seeking a deal. The president told reporters on Air Force One that negotiations are set for Monday after that, and a peace deal would save a lot of lives. Sorry, lives. Okay, so here we go again. Let's level set this just a little bit. Number one, it's been reported, so I can't confirm it, but it's been reported that the reason that the attack didn't go on is because the Gulf countries in the Middle East said, if you do this, because they're going to, they said Iran is definitely going to retaliate. They know where our oil lines are. They know where our processing stations are. They're going to hit all of our energy sectors. And if you do this, we're going to personally, or as a country, sue the United States of America. We're going to go after you. And reportedly, Saudi Arabia said, if you do this, you're no longer welcome to land your aircraft here or fly over Saudi Arabia, so forth and so on. And Saudi Arabia said through the prince, what is his name? I don't know what his name is. It doesn't matter. Anyways, the prince said that runs Saudi Arabia. He said, if you do this, we're speaking for all of the Middle East of these countries, and you're done. So lo and behold, Donald Trump says, I'm going to hold off on the greatest bombings or whatever since World War II. Listen, folks, let me pause this for a second. He says this stuff every single week. Every time oil gets too high, every time gas prices are spiking, every time we have to dip into the SPR, that's strategic petroleum reserves, every time it gets really bad, the Iranians want to make a big deal with me. They're begging me, so I will listen. It's the same shit. Every week he does this. Every single time he's done this. It's amazing to me it's even a story anymore. But unfortunately, this idiot is the fucking president of the United States. So you've got to take what he says and you've got to report on it. And here's where we get to have some little fun. So let me read you to the next slide. And I know this one's going to shock the hell out of you, but Trump lied. Trump lied, as has been reported again and again and again and again and again and again every fucking week. So I'm going to read to you Grandpa's post here, so you don't have to read it along. But here we go from Grandpa here just a couple of hours ago. Quote, Iranian leadership is unbelievably duplicitous. By the way, he couldn't have wrote that because that's not a word that he understands. That's too many letters and syllables and so forth. They ask for a meeting. Some would say beg. Talks begin with more scheduled in the immediate future. And they say openly and proudly that they're not having any discussions, that nothing is being talked about, and they're only dealing with Oman. They then go on to give their usual blather in saying the Strait of Hormuz will be operated powerfully by them when it is already completely controlled by the United States Navy and our blockade, or as some say, the United States wall of steel. Nothing gets through to Iran unless we want it to, and nothing will get through unless a deal or total surrender is accomplished. Whether Iran wants to admit it or not, we are in fact talking of a solution to a problem that they have caused for decades. It is very simple. Iran will never have a nuclear weapon. Thank you for your attention to this matter, Donald J. Trump. And thank you for your attention to this matter to those that are watching this show tonight, because it's the same fucking thing. Let me ask you a question. I don't know how old you are if you're watching this. Have you ever seen the United States, the greatest country in the world, the strongest military and greatest military in the history of the planet, the one lone superpower of the entire globe? Have you ever seen the United States look so fucking weak? Have you ever seen in the history of the United States a president that looks more weak than Donald Trump right now? Don't tell me Jimmy Carter, because Jimmy Carter looks like fucking Ronald Reagan right now compared to Donald Trump. As I have said from the beginning of this, I know we're starting to run a little short on time, but as I have said from the beginning, I I didn't have a problem with what we did, bombing Iran and going to war with Iran. I had a problem with who was running it, because strategic thinking for Donald Trump is the time between a tweet on Trump Social and a golf swing. He doesn't give a shit. He doesn't care about this stuff. He doesn't know it. And the United States military, the greatest, most powerful, and best people, incidentally, too, in that military and running it, can't fix this problem because they're being run by an absolute knucklehead who doesn't have any clue what he's doing and is the worst negotiator in the history of the United States, and there's not a close second. Even Nixon at his worst was a damn good negotiator, for God's sakes. Okay, we're going to jump to the last one. And as I said, this has been a Trump bash, which I try not to do, but this is the last one, I promise you. So, quote, and this is from it's being reposted by Political Polls, but it is a story from Axios. I just didn't use the slide from Axios, but let me go ahead and read it to you. Quote: Trump reportedly isn't worried if Republicans lose Congress because he plans to rely on executive actions and pardons rather than legislation during his final 2 years. Shocker. He doesn't give a shit about anybody. Republican Party, he doesn't give a shit about you. He never has. He was a Democrat his entire fucking life. He doesn't care about you. He doesn't care whether or not you lose your job. He doesn't care whether or not Democrats take over. As long as they can't find him guilty and impeach him, which they will, and find him guilty in the Senate, he doesn't care. Because he's got the power of the pen to pardon people. He runs directly, as we just showed on the show just 30 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago. He directly runs the Department of Justice. He runs everything. He's going to pardon the shit out of himself, his kids, and any of his cronies that are giving him enough money to make it worth his while. And Republicans, guess what? You deserve this shit. You had a time and an ability to stop him. And instead, what'd you do? You did nothing. And if you're Mike Johnson, surprisingly, somehow, every single fucking time something comes up with Donald Trump, Mike Johnson miraculously, the Speaker of the House, has never heard of it. This is the first I've heard of it. I haven't been able to get to my office. I'm working 26 hours a day. I've never heard of it. How can you expect me to answer to something, press, when I just haven't been able to hear anything about it? It's the first I've heard of it every fucking time with this guy, who, by the way, professes himself to be a staunch Christian and lies his ass off all day long, every day, and will continue to, even when he's the House Minority Leader, which is going to be happening in just a few months. Buckle up. It's going to get really rough politically between now and the midterms, because you have Republicans that are now fighting for their lives and their survival, and you have Democrats that are almost certainly going to take at least the House, and if I was going to predict, they'll take the Senate too. And when that reality starts setting in with Donald Trump, even as much as he doesn't give a shit about the Republican Party, if he sees a way that it's possible that he might be impeached and removed, which is very possible, guess what? He's going to go nuke and nuclear, and I don't know what the outcome of that's going to be for our country, but we will immediately be in a constitutional crisis because he doesn't care about you. He doesn't care about this country. He doesn't care about the Republican Party or the Democratic Party or anybody else but himself. And you've heard it here repeatedly. Thank you for joining me tonight. We do appreciate it. I don't know if you're watching this on X or if you're watching it on YouTube or Facebook or where you're watching it, but you know what? Please give us a follow. Go to YouTube. It's just go to YouTube at No Bull Media Group. Go there, subscribe, press like, leave a comment. We'll read them out on air, and we'll have some fun with it. And listen, if you like the stuff that I'm doing here when I do a one-on-one, I'm actually kind of enjoying it. Let me know. If there's things I need to improve, let me know. If it's something that you'd like to see 3-5 days a week, just a 30-minute rundown from me, let me know. And as I told you at the very beginning of this program, we are retooling in a very positive way because we've got a lot of new people that are joining. And I've also got, and I will break to you, we've got some very interesting interviews coming up either this week or this next week, especially on the immigration stuff. So again, thank you for joining. I appreciate it, and look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.
The No Bull Political Arena is on all major social media platforms. Make sure to give us and your host a follow.
Hey everybody, this is Sophia Nelson. Follow me at I am Sophia Nelson on every one of my social media platforms.
I'm Bill O'Reilly, and you can reach me at Twitter at WFBOR.
Hey, this is TJ. Follow me on X or Twitter at TJ McCormack.
This is Brian Mistro, and you can follow me on X at Brian_Mistro or follow along on Facebook at Brian.Mistro.
A No Bull Media Group member.